book, Independence Day, is an independent populist view of the critical issues and challenges that confront the presidential candidates and American voters as we approach the 2008 presidential elections. So without further ado, I give you Lou Dobbs.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Great. Thank you for your patience. I apologize for that. The reality is both political parties are lock, stock, and barrel in corporate America. Is there anyone in this room who doubts that? God bless you. We're on the first hurdle. We can start to agree. Thank you so much. We can start to agree on some facts. The facts are that corporate America is spending over $2 billion a year in Washington, D.C. to make certain that your voice and mine are not heard by legislators or the President of the United States. 435 congressmen, 100 U.S. senators, and one president, vice president, and their immense executive staff don't hear your voice and mine because corporate America has bought access and taken over a very fundamental part of the First Amendment, the right to petition for grievances. And it seems that corporate America's principal grievance is that the majority's will sometimes interferes with their commercial and financial interests. And $2 billion buys you a lot of access. In point of fact, it not only gives you influence over legislation being written. And remember, as we discuss this, you and I are not talking about some third world nation 5,000 miles distant. We're talking about this nation's capital, of a superpower, the United States of America, in which the middle class, nearly every American believes that he or she is part of the middle class. We define ourselves as middle class. But our government is designed to reject the will of the majority because the elites perforce some great DNA, or personal wealth, or a legacy of privilege, You know, I'm one of those people who was locked up in my 6th grade civics class. I actually believed what I was taught as a young man sitting in a class, that this is a country that is free, in which equality is paramount, and that we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We even have a radical populist document called the Constitution that begins with 3 words: we the people. And the last representation of a voice in Washington, D.C. is that of the interests of the American people. There are 2 fundamental values in this country. They are defined in our founding documents. They pervade every aspect of our history. We are one of the few countries in the world that can point to those documents and sum up our national character. We're the only country in the world that can point to those founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and understand that nearly every aspect of our lives is defined by 2 fundamental national values: individual liberty and freedom. The second is equality. Equality of rights, equality of opportunity, economic and educational opportunity. Yet, here we are in 2007 with a failing public education system, which is the great equalizer in our society. Almost half of Hispanic students in this country are dropping out of high school. Almost half of Black students in this country are dropping out of high school. A third of white students are dropping out of high school. Is there anything in there that we have in common, irrespective of those who would like to define our racial differences? Whatever your racial or ethnic background, the reality is you are fundamentally and foremost an American. And it's time for you and me and all of us to focus on that which we hold in common. Our similarities rather than our differences. Put aside group and identity politics and understand that wedge issues like gun control, abortion, gay marriage are nothing more than distractions and deflections from the real business of the people, which is to ensure those 2 values are defended and asserted as aggressively for one another as we insist upon their assertion for ourselves. That is the nature of fulfilling the promise of this country. You know, I love looking around this room and I see warm and friendly faces, and I wonder to myself, how many of you will admit to a great, grievous failure? How many of you are now, or have ever been, affiliated with either the Republican or the Democratic parties? We're forgiven. If we say, if we begin to redeem ourselves, we're going to have to take action. We're going to have to think independently. We're going to have to act independently. We're going to have to take back our public education system. We're going to have to begin to insist on investment in our young people, in our public, infrastructure. We need $1.5 trillion just to maintain our public infrastructure in this nation. We've run 31 consecutive years of trade deficits, practicing faith-based economics, called free trade. Ask the millions of people who have lost their jobs, go to middle class jobs, go to manufacturing, or call center jobs, what the cost of free trade really is. The reality is we have to not only think independently, be independent thinkers, but act independently and assert the rights that we were fortunate enough to be given to the Charter of our Constitution some 200 years ago. These 2 political parties have to be clearly send a political message, a convincing message, that you're no longer going to be taken for granted, taken for fools, and we have to begin to understand that they're simply opposite wings of the same bird, and it's the American people getting the bird. And we're not going to tolerate it any longer. I hope that you will, as you read my work, to How many of you believe in gun control?